This program was brought to you by A.J. Longo and Associates.
Pasadena. Welcome to Arroyo Live. We're going to be talking today about a subject near and dear to many of our hearts, and that's the celebration of Women's History Month. Women have certainly done their part worldwide and nationwide, and we're going to be talking about community-wide, what this has meant to the women and the entire citizens, all the citizens of Pasadena. My name is Jan Sanders. You might remember I was the director of Pasadena's public libraries for many years. Having retired from that, I am now happily an active community volunteer and loving it as a grandma. I have a granddaughter now, so things are very exciting around my house. We have three guests today, each of whom has made a significant contribution to the area of women's growth, and women's development. So let me briefly introduce them to you. And as I say your name, please tell our audience a little bit about yourself, the group you're representing, and what we need to know about you. Our first guest is Laura Schano.
Hi, I'm the president of Pasadena Women's Club. We are a small group, but we are very mighty. We do philanthropic, all kinds of activities for our Pasadena community, and this is our 110th anniversary in March.
Well, congratulations. That's very exciting to have a group of active women assisting our community for that length of time. Well done.
Thank you.
Our next guest is another Laura Farber, who many of you remember from when she was the president of the Tournament of Roses. She's also an active attorney with Hahn and Hahn. So Laura, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. And it's nice to be another Laura on the program. I am a partner at Hahn and Hahn. It's a very old law firm. It's been around since 1899, and I'm proud to say we are a certified woman and minority-owned firm. We did it organically, so I'm very proud of that fact. I also am a past president of the Tournament of Roses, and I'm currently the chair of the Rose Bowl Management Committee. Not had a lot of women in that role, which is really exciting. And I sit on a committee with the Big Ten commissioner, the Pac-12 commissioner, and 6 athletics directors. And we're focused on policies regarding football, college football generally, the Rose Bowl game, and also, the expansion proposed that's happening now, or, they're talking about it. It's actually not happening, but the discussions are definitely ongoing. And I practice in the areas of employment law. I'm also a litigator in an eclectic mix of different disputes. I advise clients to prevent litigation, as I've been doing this for quite some time. And I'm also active in the community in other areas. I sit on a nonprofit called Classical Notes, and I'm very involved in the American Bar Association. I represent the state of California in our House of Delegates, and I'm involved in a variety of other areas in the ABA. And I'm thrilled to be here with all of you.
I don't know how you can even draw a breath with all of that going on in your life, but I'm intrigued by your sitting with the Pac-10 and the Big 12 and all those coaches and jocks in a room. I can just see a room filled with cigar smoke and Laura sitting in the middle of it. That'll be fun. Maybe we'll get to a chance to talk about that in just a minute. Our third guest is a familiar face to many of you. Martha has been active in community work in Pasadena for a long time and currently is president of the League of Women Voters. Martha, tell us a little bit about yourself. This is Martha Zavala.
Thank you, Jan. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Martha Zavala. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters, Pasadena area. The Pasadena area encompasses actually 13 communities, 12 cities, including Pasadena, and the township of Altadena. And a lot of people don't realize that because of our name, that might be a little restricted. I was born and raised in East Los Angeles, so I'm not of your community, but I have gotten to know it in my work through the league. And I'm always been very impressed at the way the city operates. It's such a beautiful city, and we all know there's still a lot of work to do. We're very active. We are not just people that go out and register voters. We also have a very active advocacy arm. There are a lot of public policy positions that the League has taken, and we go ahead and move forward on advocating for change. It's, we were activists before we were voters. Our organization is 102 years old. We celebrate every February 14th the fact that the League is actually older than the 19th Amendment. And here in Pasadena, the Pasadena area League is 86 years old. So we're going to be celebrating that in the next couple of months. So we've been here in the community for a long time.
You may know that the National Women's History Month was begun in 1976, which doesn't seem that long ago to those of us gray-haired old women. But it's an important step in recognizing the work and the effort that women have put forward. So I would like to put to each of you ladies, and I'm going to start with Martha because her last name starts with Z, and I'm imagining that often she's last. So we're going to start with her this morning. And tell us a little bit about, what does National Women's History Month mean to you, and why do you feel it's an important step for us to take?
Well, I think it means the opportunity for all of us to celebrate the sacrifice of every woman throughout history who's given her talent, her passion, her love, and sometimes even her life to advance society overall. Women have had to juggle the needs of, husbands, sons, daughters, children, aging parents, and still trying to tackle the ills, the societal ills that prevent entire communities from thriving. I think that the plight of women really has a lot to do with the way everyone else experiences life in society. So we played a key role in creating a more caring and equitable society. And now I think that we could make more progress if there were more women in elected positions.
Thank you. Laura Farber, you have certainly played an instrumental role in lots of different fields. So what does National Women's History Month mean to you or for you?
Well, I think it's extremely important to celebrate women, to empower women, to support women, and to have recognition of this. And I'm thrilled that there's a month that recognizes. Frankly, I think it should be done 12 months a year, in my own opinion, because I don't think we would be where we are without the most amazing part of our society, which is women. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a man hater. I love men too. I think they're wonderful. But I think women need to be supported and recognized. And I think of the Maribel sisters who fought the dictator in Dominican Republic, Trujillo, and gave their lives and forced the UN Assembly, National Assembly, to come up with the International Violence Against Women's Day in their honor, and things of that nature, and steps that can be taken to support the importance of women. We don't realize, I think, that throughout the world, there are many countries that still have very serious issues with respect to violence against women. And I want to build that consciousness. We live in a country that is much more open to those ability to dialogue on those topics and to support those topics. But I think building a consciousness of how fortunate we are, but also to support women all over the world. I want us to kind of make sure that we don't lose that perspective, because there's so much that goes on that we don't see, and things that are going on now that we don't see, or that we do see and hear about and need to get more active about, even if it's praying, even if it's thoughts, if it's not necessarily, taking up arms, but I do think we need to be supportive. I mean, you think of the women in Afghanistan, the judiciary, who have been in exile. You just think about the things that have occurred, and they really do impact how we view the world. And I think we need to stay conscious of those important endeavors and how we can continue to support and empower the amazing work that women do throughout our world.
I think we're seeing a new heroine arise in Ukraine. The president's wife has certainly
Yeah.
stepped up and said, this is what we're going to do. This is our home. We will defend it. We will make it right. So certainly the idea of women leadership and women leading politically is a big piece of what we're celebrating today.
We are actually having our Thursday with the League that's called Refuge 101. And so we are having a speaker come in and talk about the refugee situation. And so that we have that on our website for people to be able to register for that. So we do have information, and the audience would be able to ask her questions specific to what's happening now. And of course, we now have a Ukrainian issue.
Right.
And a lot of the disparity between how refugees of color are treated differently.
Yes. There's a
So,
local organization called KIND, Kids in Need of Defense,
Yeah.
that also focuses on unaccompanied minors. And I'm going to tell you, because to me, that's still an issue. I mean, yes, we have the focus on what's happening in the Ukraine and in Afghanistan, but if we just look at our own borders, we still have from the Northern Triangle so many young children coming over to find either their parents or just to find a better way of life, or escaping violence, escaping rape, escaping drugs, you name it. And so there are a lot of local organizations that are doing things to support those unaccompanied minors who, by the way, are treated like criminals. The way those detention centers were privately funded work on the border. I could go on and on about some of this stuff. It's just atrocious, some of the things that are happening, that continue to happen. And there's organizations that are working to support that. And support them.
San Gabriel Valley District of Women's Clubs also has many programs. If you want to contact them, they will direct you directly to their programs, which would be women in the military. We provide toiletries and things for women soldiers all over the world. Also, the Air Force Base, I guess it's March Air Force Base, they have an education program where they take box tops, those kind of things. They collect whatever the can tops. All of those things raise money for the children that are at that base. And in the international scope, especially with Ukraine and all the conflicts around the world, those programs are all, instead of reinventing the wheel, we donate it to San Gabriel Valley District, and they take care of the distribution and their programs so that, they have all the resources. So I would say recommend go to their website, sgvd.org, and look up that particular Women in the Military tab, and that will show you a lot of the things that are done that way. Pasadena,
really good tip.
Pasadena would be Salvation Army, I believe.
I would also focus on the LA County Bar. They're doing a lot of pro bono work for victims of sexual and domestic violence, but also on the helping with asylum and helping on the legal side, getting people out where they need to get out from all kinds of horrible situations, including Afghanistan, including Ukraine, including the border. So they've got projects that are working in those areas as well.
I know in Radford, Virginia, they have an intake center. I'm actually going to Virginia tomorrow. My mom just had hip surgery, but I'm going to go and do what I can over there. And it's basically, they give them everything they need: an apartment, food, a job, everything they can get, counseling, education for the children, set them up in school, a language. And I would love to see something like that in Pasadena. If Radford, Virginia can do it, Pasadena can do it. Radford only has 60,000 people in it. So, maybe that's a suggestion. We can all get some community volunteers and have an intake center, have some resources for these poor people.
I do think that advocacy can go a long way, even if you personally can't do anything. But I know the churches are engaged, like All Saints really cares about these issues. And so for the community out there who perhaps belongs there or has no other avenue, I think many of them offer ways to help.
And of course, you can write to your congressperson and say,
Sure.
what we're not happy
Definitely.
with the way this is focused. We want to see more. I mean, I can tell you that there's a lot of law firms, big law firms. I'm not in a big law firm, but big law firms that are engaged in the pro bono effort. And that's not just on the legal side, but trying to gather a food, clothes, and suitable place for them, right? I mean, those things aren't legal necessarily, but what's happening, I'm gonna bring you back again to the women judges. Okay, this is really important to get our hands on, because they're focused on, hurting women judges who have been put in places of authority by their own government, and they've zeroed in on them. It's not okay what's going on, and enough people need to hear about this and learn about this. It's really appalling. And so I want to make sure that you understand this is an attack on the rule of law. This is not just an attack on women. And so there's just a lot going on before we move on to Ukraine. And don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting what's happening in Ukraine isn't horrible, but I do think a lot of people aren't aware of the atrocities that continue and that impact families and women in Afghanistan. And so to me, I wish I could give you a Pasadena connection. All I can tell you is that there are a lot of law firms that are working on this space, and maybe there's through like the LA County Bar or other bar associations, that's probably a good place to send people. I don't know that the Pasadena Bar is doing anything. I would tell you the Pasadena Bar Association, but I can't say that they are. But maybe they could refer people to help with any of this, which even means fundraising to assist some of those pro bono efforts. And let me tell you what's happening. I mean, the Taliban has been in court with these women sitting on the bench. They've seen their faces. These women are like in Greece, and they're in other places with the ones that have been able to get away. So they have made a mental picture of who these people are. And it's like being on a most wanted list, So that's what's happening here. It's like retribution. Oh, you did this to me in court, applying the law of the land, and I'm not going to go after you, even though you were just doing your job, right? That's like us going after judges that are sitting on the bench for enforcing the law. That's what this is about. And so it's really outrageous. Anyway, I'll stop. I'm sorry.
But you know what? I think the Ukraine, even though it's a new problem, gives an opportunity for reconciling what we've done in other situations, because there's always this disparate amount of attention that's paid on something. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the new shiny object comes in, you turn aside. And these are people's lives.
Bring us down to leadership of the community and what your organization sees as important about Women's History Month.
Right. Our community is hands-on. Our club with our community. I'm sorry, and we reach out at the lowest level, which happens to be a food bank. People need food, and historically in Pasadena, we've had a homeless issue for the last 30 years that has really only gotten worse. So besides the historical problems we have, getting hands-on food to other people through the senior center food bank, also Salvation Army and Walter having women home for children and women. We also work with historically women's clubs all over California have worked to prevent domestic violence and sexual abuse. Those are all huge programs with the Federation of History that we want to promote as far as being hands-on in the community, getting the help to the people who need it the most. Thank you.
Well, I think that our community is certainly known for taking a strong leadership role in the area we serve, and in setting some trends and having some things happen. We had a woman mayor early in the development of Pasadena. Katie Knack was I think the first feminine mayor of Pasadena, and we've had a history of people stepping up and helping to lead as council members and other people of impact within the city government. Our long-term city attorney, Michelle Bonaris, has been with the city as long as I've known anything about Pasadena, which is going on 20 years. So we always have women in leadership roles. I appreciate that. Let's take a look at at some of that for just a minute. We currently have 2 council members, unless I'm missing something, who are women here in the city of Pasadena. One is Felicia Williams in District 2, and the other is, what's her name?
Jessie Rivas.
Thank you. Say that again.
Jessie Rivas in District.
Thank you. Jessie Rivas, who took over the position for Mayor Gordo when he stepped up. There was a process a number of years ago, an impetus, which was called 20 by 20, which was 20% of the elected officials to be women by the year 2020. I'm afraid we missed that deadline a little bit, but let's take a look at women in government. Martha, you have said that your group really works to promote women and make sure that their causes are heard and that they are well trained. I'd like to talk to each of you just a minute about if you have the capacity or if you have within your organization a bent to training young women to step up and take active roles in government, what those look like and how individuals might become involved in that.
Well, like anyone else, we have a membership prospective member reception. We do 2 of those. You get to know what it means. You gotta give up your New Year's. You can't be wedded to New Year's. You have to be willing to volunteer and to stay up all night. All the usual drill. But you come in, and if you're in, and now we lowered our age. It used to be, I think it was 25, and now it's 21. So, and we have a student ambassador program. So we have students from all the PUSD and local high schools that participate in our events. And that's sort of a training ground, I think. And then we've had a wonderful pipeline developed from that, as well as from the Royal Court, that have then become members, in addition to others that want to join, which is really wonderful, I think, because it does allow you to kind of get a flavor for what it might be like. And, now that we have changed our structure because of all the protests that occurred in the early 90s, I mean, when I joined, it was all white men. So, part of me was thinking, what am I doing? But, the way to change an organization sometimes is from, being involved and coming from within. And so fortunately, our organization has changed quite a bit. It's starting to reflect the beautiful diversity of our community organically. And what that means is more people are coming and more people are expressing an interest in wanting to join and getting opportunities. And so through that and through our prospective member reception, people can come in, join, and be a member, and everybody does the same stuff. So it's the ultimate equalizer. The first 6 years, you rotate in the big 3 committees. And it doesn't matter if you're a judge, if you're a dentist, if you're a school teacher, if you're whatever. We don't care what you do for your day job. You're all going to do the same stuff. And I love that because you really get a chance to get to know people for who they are, regardless of their backgrounds. And so it really brings people together. And from there, different people have more time to give or not more time to give, and you have opportunities to develop as a leader throughout the organization. And then eventually, if you get into leadership in a way that allows you to have the time to go up the ladder, so to speak, you have an 8-year ladder to be president. It's quite a commitment. I've been in, this is my 30th year of involvement. So, there is a lot of time to explore and to be involved, but it also gives you an opportunity to get to know people in the community. And that's been beautiful. Go to the schools, talk to the students, and let them see you in a leadership position so they can say, hey, someday I can be president of the Tournament of Roses or president of the USA. I'd love to see that one when I'm alive. And I'm hoping we're going to see that. I think it's crucial and important, not to segue, but in any event, I do think that we need to be in positions of mentoring and of opening doors and showing the fact that we're there, like sitting on the bench, have women judges. You see that, you have a perception that it's open to you, that it's accessible to you. And I think we have an obligation to make sure that happens and to have a pipeline that's rich with, all kinds of people that can then step in, qualified people to step in and do this work. Because I will not accept the excuse, there's no one out there that's qualified to do X, Y, Z. Yeah, you just didn't look hard enough. You didn't mentor, you didn't bring people along, in my humble view. So I think that we have an obligation to do that. And I think the tournament is getting it right and working along those lines. We have a lot of people coming up that I think We have a woman president now, Amy Wainscott. Very, very excited. She's the fourth woman. I'm the third. I was the first Latina.
That leadership training, that capacity for taking a group and making it your own and getting a lot of work done is certainly something that serves us well career-wise and socially and in our family and everywhere along the line. So whether or not you aspire to be the president of the organization, you certainly can learn about yourself and your community and how to get things done by serving on the Tournament of Roses. So that's really important. I want to pick up on a little something you said too, because you mentioned that it's a ladder approach and ladder, not ladder. It's a ladder approach, and that individuals grow as they go along. And certainly our community has ladders of organizations that help us out as we move forward. Laura, your group has been instrumental in driving policies forward and in driving long-lasting organizations forward to make us a better place to be. Certainly, you mentioned your work with the Senior Center and in keeping people housed and fed and those kinds of things. 1912 was a very long. Is that what you said, 1912?
Yeah, we're actually, education is the way to begin as far as we're concerned. We have provided nursing scholarships for women in the nursing program at Pasadena City College. We also do scholarships for the music program there, and the students come and play at our meetings at the Edward Blinn House in Pasadena, which happens to be under construction now. But we'll be opening in April. Pasadena Heritage took it over. But back to the education part, that is the beginning of the ladder as far as we're concerned. And these students are wonderful. There's also a public policy and legislation through the San Gabriel Valley District of Women's Club. And they are very active. And actually the people that are involved in the district usually end up going up the ladder of politics and getting women's interests passed and bills and all kinds of things. So we also, I lost my train of thought, but I was thinking that with the education part of, we have the art contest, we have creative writing, and you should read some of these things these elementary students write. These are schools in Pasadena, and how they want to change the city government, how they want to help with the homeless problem, how they want to learn about international politics. And, just having them come to our group and speak to these little old ladies from Pasadena really makes our day. And it makes us feel like there's hope for the future.
I'm getting a wonderful interplay there between you starting out to educate young women and ending up being educated yourself by those young women, which very often happens in women's organizations. I think that's absolutely wonderful. So good. Kudos to you.
Right, you get what you get. That's what I say.
I think we sometimes sell the younger generation a little short. We assume they're not quite as tuned in as they are, and
no,
and
they're smart.
We probably would be quaking in our boots. But at any rate, I would be remiss, since we're talking about women in politics a little bit, I would be remiss if I didn't mention just a few things. Women's organizations, I know, often get behind women candidates. There are all kinds of coalitions and women's groups that support women candidates, and that's wonderful. Your group has an advocacy arm. Certainly the League of Women Voters has a very strong advocacy arm. There are a number of local organizations and local individuals who get behind political causes and political strengths. I know one of our women leaders in politics is, of course, Judy Chu, and she has been very active in driving forward a number of issues that have implications for women, and is currently working a lot on women's health issues and how all those come to the fore. I'm wondering if the League has a position on that. Martha?
Oh, Our league.
Your league.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a position on women's health, because one of I know that Judy Chu has introduced HR 3755, which is a law to prohibit governmental restrictions on provision of services to women. And we very much support that, because we really think that Roe versus Wade has been gutted to the point where it's no longer effective for many women in different states. I think we're very lucky to be in California. You think about the fact that we have this new appointment coming up soon in the Supreme Court, where we're going to have representation of women there, because all of the leeching away of the power behind Roe v. Wade has all been based on court decisions and attacks by various states. So yes, we definitely support women's reproductive rights, because there's no equality without reproductive rights. Women end up having to take a step back, having to leave jobs right at a time when they're trying to establish themselves. And they're basically at this point going to be forced to step out of the workforce. And this is a lot of what creates the disparity in income and any number of other things. So definitely the league hasn't specifically come out to support this HR 3755, looking at where it is in Congress right now. I think the House passed it, and it kind of got stalled in the Senate. But normally when it's time to really call out the troops, to go ahead and contact your senator, because it seems as if legislation has been getting stuck in the Senate, then we will call out the troops and push for this, because it's very, very important that women have those choices that they can make that will safeguard their capacity to earn, the capacity to care for the existing families that they may or may not have, and that they can actually choose what their future is going to look like. It's highly important, because that is one of the things that women, why we wanted the vote is because to take more control over their lives. And this is really kind of sad that we're dealing with this right now. Well, 2022.
Right, and it's a very big part of women's issues, of course, the whole area of reproductive rights. But beyond that, women's health touches on so many facets of our society at large. We care for children, we care for older people. We want to make sure that the policies and infrastructure is in place for those things to drive forward. So we all have to appreciate that. I think my mind goes back every now and then to that glorious march we had right after the inauguration of President Trump, when all those millions of women across the nation joined together and said, you will hear us.
Yes.
You will hear us. You may not agree with us, but you will hear us. And certainly women are very good at that kind of thing. Something that we are hearing right now, and I would be remiss if we didn't talk about to some length, is the whole issue of the adoption of a new Supreme Court judge. Laura, you're our seat from the law. Talk to us a little bit about your reaction to the nominee of Ketanji Brown Jackson and what you think she might bring to that seat that others perhaps would not.
Well, first of all, I am beyond thrilled about this nomination, and I think we should all be, because judge, and she is a U.S. Circuit Court judge for the D.C. Court of Appeals, Ketanji Brown Jackson is incredibly well qualified. And for anyone to make a statement otherwise it's out of pure ignorance, in my humble opinion, because if you look at her record and you look at her education and what she's done, and that is actually known as a court that's a feeder, I should tell you, a feeder to the Supreme Court, because many have served on that district circuit court. But anyway, she was nominated to replace Justice Stephen Breyer, and many of you may know this, but she clerked for him. So she has actually been in the trenches, working for the Supreme Court, knows how it works, because those clerks have the inner workings, having had that experience. So that's number one. She's a graduate of Harvard Law School, obviously top law school. So she's got all those credentials, to the extent that anybody's looking at credentials and how important that may or may not be. She is incredibly bright and is respected for that and has incredible experience. And she's the first nominee to the Supreme Court that has come from the public defender side of the universe, as opposed to the prosecution side, which is also quite unusual and quite wonderful, because she has a different perspective. And that's what you want when you have seats around that table, when they're all looking at matters that come before them, and not just on the criminal side, criminal justice system, but other side. She has an unusual and amazing breadth of experience, which is what you want in a nominee. And, just because President Biden said he was going to nominate a Black woman, okay, well, that's great. And he did. Does not mean that she's not an incredibly well-respected, incredibly qualified woman to serve, and lawyer to serve on that court. And she will do that. She has worked with young people. She understands and inspires them, and she has her own family. I am just so in awe of her and what she's been through, and the fact that she's been through this process before, because when you're going to get on the circuit court, you go through the confirmation process. It's not quite as intense, but it is still intense. Not quite as intense as the Supreme Court in terms of the scrutiny, but she has been through it. And she received bipartisan support, I should mention, as well, on the previous nomination. So she should get that same bipartisan support for the Supreme Court nomination. Absolutely. And if she does not get it, then you know that somebody is looking at something they shouldn't be looking at, or focusing on things that they shouldn't be focusing on, in my humble opinion, again. And I think that anyone, a young lawyer looking at that bench, or any citizen of this country or of the world, will look at that and say, wow, she is not only amazing, but she's bringing a pragmatism, a generosity, a civility, a grace. Those are the characterizations of how she has done things on the bench so far that we will bring to the equation, which of course Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan and the others that are sitting on that bench, I'm not saying just the women, but the women in particular, have brought and will continue to bring. But in terms of getting to where we need to go, there has to be something else done there. And there's another woman on the bench, Amy Barrett, and I'm not suggesting that she doesn't bring her own skill set to the bench. But I do think that many of us want to make sure that there are opportunities for women in particular, and women's issues in particular, to be focused upon in a way that the law will bring those values, because they are a little bit different than other values that that come forth, to bring together people and to bring that beautiful diversity into what needs to come to fruition with the legal issues that confront the bench and will continue to confront the bench. Voting rights being another one of them, by the way.
We still haven't passed ERA.
We got to look. There's so many issues we need to look at here, and if you're not enfranchised to be able to vote in a democracy that's supposed to be representative, which the League stands for, and I know embraces, then what are we doing? I mean, what are we doing when we try to disenfranchise people? So I'm hopeful. I'm excited about her nomination. I'm hopeful that she gets confirmed quickly, expeditiously, and that the traditional politics don't get in the way.
Well, it's pretty commendable that we have 4 women of a field of 9.
I just wanted to say there's unity in diversity. Believe it or not, that is true. And you have to have an opinion from everyone before you can make a decision on your own, I believe. I'm speaking in general, obviously. But I did want to say, we can't take credit, but we are so darn proud of her. And also that, my daughter, I have a daughter who's 27, and she actually went to school, graduated, and took a job in New Zealand, and she works for the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And Jacinda is a very progressive, wonderful woman, and she's given Lauren the opportunity of a lifetime. She just got promoted again. She's in the Department of Communications. The ministry does their internet. So if a 27-year-old little girl from Pasadena can go work for a foreign government and be an essential part of their program, to me, that's like, this is what women, this is how we learn. We learn from the ladies that have been before us, the ones that are getting promoted, the ones that are educating themselves. And like I said, I can't take credit, but I'm very proud of all of them. Thank you.
As well, you should be.
Yeah, that's good.
And,
That's
and now
wonderful.
we even have a female vice president. So we might not have met the goal of 20 by 20, but I think we are making strides. I'm wondering what message would you give to women leaders?
Many ladies that are afraid to volunteer, they don't want to get involved or this or that, but they're lonely. And this is a way to have social identity. It's also a way to educate men on how women think. And, I got married at 18, so I had to grow up during the marriage. We've been married 40 years now, and he's just now learning who I am. And, I think coming out of my shell by volunteering here, I always volunteered at my children's school, but this is different. My husband and I have run a business for 35 years, actually. And this is different. This is much more hands-on, much more. I meet so many people, just opening the door, just taking the phone call, just, saying, yeah, maybe I'll go have lunch one time. It makes a big difference. Everyone who started in a group or philanthropic setting, they always want to come back and help again. It seems fun, so let's do it again.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a good way to educate.
We can't discount the fact that women are usually smarter than they think they are.
Yes.
They're usually more capable than they think they are. So we need to keep encouraging young girls and teens to recognize that.
I think women leaders, if I was going to talk to them, I would say, please do everything you can to make sure that you're giving people opportunities, and especially women. And I'm not trying to exclude men when I say this, but I think that more men need to develop a consciousness. I mean, if you've got a woman in your life, which you probably most likely, you have your mother, so you know that. But, point is, women should be at the table. They should have the same opportunities, the same everything that men do. And I don't believe they still, I think we're still struggling. We still need to get there. Being in a boardroom and giving an opinion on a topic or bringing up an idea and being dismissed, and 3 minutes later, the guy repeats your same idea. And, we need to be able to say, oh, gosh, thank you for recognizing my wonderful idea. I appreciate that you support it so much. We have to be able to do that and to bring others along and bring other women, bring them up. If you had a door open for you, well, then you open it for someone behind you or somebody else. Do what you need to do to create opportunity, because if you don't create the opportunity, you're never going to know, gee, that person really is amazing, is capable, can do everything. And then encourage, mentor, and support. So I see those as if I see a woman leader, that's what I'm expecting that woman leader to do. I'm expecting the male leaders to do the same. Some do that. Not all do, and not all women do either. So we need to make sure that everyone understands the importance of reflecting that beautiful diversity, because if we do not, I don't think our system is going to evolve in a way that, that people are going to want to continue to deal with. And God knows what that's going to look like. So I'm hopeful. I stay hopeful. I always stay hopeful that we get people that understand that and that bring everybody along.
I agree. I worked for an organization of 17,000, and it was male-dominated industry, law enforcement. And one of the things that would happen is that they would very quickly try to put women in a position to compete with each other, because they were handing out little token assignments in their mind, and requiring a certain kind of behavior from the women who would be, deemed acceptable to kind of go into the ranks of this all male, executive team. And that was hurtful. I would say, make sure you maintain your integrity. Don't ever forget that you shouldn't be competing with other women. You should be helping each other, because basically that's what they do when you think about the old boys club or whatever, is that they stick together. And rightly so. I think they feel they can be themselves. But I think that's the other thing I would say. Don't be afraid to be yourself. And somebody's mentioned it. Don't be afraid to be the one standing out there, because when you're in a leadership role, many times you are standing alone in terms of you're the face of, and whatever positions you take or policies you take, if you're going to have to stand up for them. And so help somebody else up through there. Remember how you got to where you are. None of us get anywhere alone, and to not forget that and bring somebody up with you.
And I think often leaders assume that they're out there on their own, when in reality, there are a lot of people who would have said exactly what you said, had they but the courage to do that. So I think that's a really important thing for us to recognize as well. So I'd be interested in knowing how your organizations are supporting or celebrating Women's History Month.
March is our Federation month. It's our anniversary, 110 years old. And this is going to be a big party. We're going to have a party at El Portal, and it's be 11 o'clock on March 23rd, which is a Wednesday. And we'll have our celebration with balloons and cake. And we want to celebrate the history of women. And this is the best way to do it. And in addition to making a special bequeath to PCC for our anniversary, we want to give this to either a single mom in the nursing program, and so she won't have to worry about paying her rent for the next 6 months. So that will be our celebration. That will be our award for the needy student. And really, getting together is the best way to keep our history alive, because what do? We make history.
That's right. That's right. And certainly celebrating the history that you've made through events like this is really, really important. I recognize that. That's terrific.
Thank you.
Let's flip to the other Laura. Do you have something you'd like to announce?
We have our first woman managing partner of our law firm, which I'm very proud of. Her name is Chris Kern. She's fabulous. And so we get to celebrate year round, having her in that position. And also, I just think that like I said, we organically have evolved to what we are, and we are now majority women. And no one in their wildest dreams, I think, if they knew the history of our firm, Hahn and Hahn, founded by all men. And basically, we didn't have our first woman in the door until the 70s, our first woman who joined the firm. And I was, I think, the fourth woman to join the firm back in early 90s. So you can see where this has gone, and it's gone quite quickly. So yes, we are celebrating that in having, we will, tell the world how excited we are about all of this. I think it's a huge deal. I think it's a wonderful way to go. And we're in the process of trying to become certified by the Women Business Enterprise entity so that we can join the National Association of Women and Minority-Owned Law Firms. So, we're taking steps to do all of this. So the celebration technically really is a year-long deal here, because we really have some specific things that we want to accomplish and to do, and to continue to bring in women. A couple things I do want to mention. I think, and one of the roles in my American Bar Association role is an advocacy one for policy. I do think that we need a national child care policy. And I feel very strongly about this. And I think it was exacerbated during the pandemic. You saw women leaving the workforce across the board in a variety of areas. In the legal profession, it definitely hit us because they were expected to do it all, including take care of the kids when there was no childcare available. So I really think there's a lot of other countries that have wonderful policies. We need to do more there. So that's my pitch for childcare and family care. And then I think we also need to grapple with the imposter syndrome, which I think comes up quite a bit for a lot of women in particular who think, gosh, do I really belong where I am right now? Can I really be doing this? They question it quite a bit and feel like this can't be right. This doesn't feel right. We need to acknowledge it and have programs and support there to grapple with that as well.
Thank you. That's terrific. That's terrific. Martha?
Absolutely.
You're always doing many, many things.
I was going to say, for us,
very well.
it's a year-round effort to make sure that we reach out to women and get them engaged and involved in their community because we need the more voices of women to, again, bring that attention to what Laura's mentioned, all the barriers to women being able to succeed, because the tendency is to have women be the caretakers, caregivers, the maid, the teacher during the pandemic. All of those things, all these burdens are absorbed. And I was thinking about what you said, that don't let people tell you you don't belong there, and what happens to strong women. This is my segue to talk about the fact that Marshall Fundamental is going to be celebrating the history of women, the celebration of Women's History Month. And they're actually going to have a video clip talk by Hillary Rodham Clinton and talk about a strong woman and how people feel that perhaps she doesn't belong there. And the way that many have kind of put her in a penalty box when she was one of the most qualified people to ever sit there, whether you agree with her policies or otherwise, but really qualified. So this is this celebration. We are actually helping pass the word about that. It's on March 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. at Marshall Fundamental. And I think everybody should get out there and celebrate women, learn more about the role women have played, maybe locally, nationally, and otherwise. So I think that's going to be a very interesting keynote speaker that we can all hear from with all her insights.
And it's going to be a bit of a festival. When you were talking earlier, Laura, you said you were having a party early in the day, and then we're continuing later in the day with the celebration of
We'll
women's...
get a party bus. How's that?
Yeah, there you go. We'll party all day
From
long.
one place to the other, yes.
But there are a number of events going on at this gathering at Marshall Fundamental School starting at 6 p.m. There are essay readings. We've heard about some of the fine essays that the young women in the schools are doing. There's an art exhibit. And both of those events are centered around the theme, the female perspective. So I'll be really interested to see what comes of that conversation. But we have a number of other speakers who are planning to be there. So it's something that you will not want to miss. Judy Chu is planning to come. Our city council members, Felicia Williams is coming. Dr. Sandra Thomas, who is on the council at Altadena. Our PUSD Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Brian McDonald, and PUSD Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Elizabeth Blanco. So the room is filled with talent and sparkle and all kinds of conversations happening. So I challenge you to make sure you don't miss that event, because it's going to be a very active, very informative evening and a wonderful way to celebrate not only what women have done already, but what they can do in the future that is before us. Laura Farber has mentioned many times the beautiful diversity that reflects itself in Pasadena. And certainly that's a beautiful diversity of leadership styles and leadership messages in that gathering of women. I hope that you'll be able to attend that. Check the City of Pasadena website as well. I know there are other things going on throughout the city. The libraries are doing a number of things. We obviously have our regular council member meetings with their constituents. I know there is one Thursday, March the 10th for District 2. That is Felicia Williams' town hall meeting, and that's going to happen again at Marshall Fundamental School starting at 5:30. Well, 5:30 is refreshments and get to know your neighbor kind of thing. And then the actual meeting starts at 6 p.m. But those are very informative kinds of gatherings for individuals because you have the right as a participant to ask questions, to bring up issues that are troublesome to you, things that are bothering you about the city, about the way the city is run, about things that are done or things that are not done. Perhaps that's a bigger issue for you. So check and see when your council member is having a town hall meeting, because that is a wonderful opportunity for you to come together with your neighbors and really get your point of view across. So I want to thank all of our members this morning for stepping up and talking to us about the things that are important to them and to their organization about Women's History Month. We all take the roles that we fill in our community very, very seriously. We're all very dedicated to doing what we do and doing it to the very, very best of our ability. And we stand on the shoulders of those women who have led us in the past, who have gotten us to a position where we can have a female vice president and female senators and female representatives and female secretaries of labor and all kinds of cabinet positions. So it's a wonderful thing, not just nationally, but throughout the state and certainly through our community as well. I encourage you to be aware of the role of women, be aware of your role in the development of our community. Pasadena is a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And a lot of that is because of people like these women that we've talked to this morning, and people like you who step up and do what needs to be done to keep Pasadena on the forefront of leading trends, leading change, and leading opportunity for the women we know and the women we serve. We thank you for watching Arroyo Live. We hope you'll join us again when another topic will be discussed for your edification. Thank you and good day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This program was brought to you by AJ Longo and Associates.